will start my deck and then I'll present myself a bit later. So you're welcome to the Professional Managed Services. This is a new division, I guess, from Quadbridge. Maybe around a year ago, Quadbridge acquired DTM, which we call Quadbridge West. With this acquisition, this is where all this talent of professional and managed services came in, and we were extremely happy to acquire this company because the talent was extremely great, and everyone knows talent today is extremely difficult to find, and we were lucky enough to find it in this company, and we're definitely trying to improve it, bring more and more services to everyone. So I'll present myself. My name is Gonzalo Coimbra. You can call me Kiko. I actually prefer being called Kiko. I'll tell you a bit of my background. Always worked in very big companies, challenging. So my first job was online gambling. I was working at possibly the largest online casino online at the time. Then I worked 10 years in pharma, so very hard, very tedious. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. I usually don't speak.
All right, go.
Okay. All right. So I worked 10 years in pharma, dealing with regulatory affairs and the FDA and Health Canada. After that, I went to Department of National Defense. I was in charge of the retrofit of all warships of Canada. And then I went to the largest adult entertainment company in the world, managed. We can talk about it offline with a couple of drinks if you want. And after that, I went to Saputo, which is a big cheese conglomerate. I was in charge of innovation there. And 3 months ago, I had the chance to join Quadbridge, jump the other side of the fence. Instead of being the customer, I'm actually the person trying to help companies. So really exciting times, and I'll introduce you the rest of this fantastic team. Well, they'll introduce themselves. First of all, Gustavo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Gustavo Gallego. I've been working with DTM Systems for now QBITS for 17 years. I'm actually originally from Colombia. I have experience in the industry for 20 plus years. So before actually coming to Canada, I was also working with a Microsoft partner. I started pretty much I actually have a background in economics, so I have a degree in economics. Before even I graduated, I got into IT. And in IT, pretty much one of the following steps after my degree, I got into MCSE with Microsoft. So I got my certification there and that got me started. I started working with bars in Colombia, then I moved here. I found a home with DTM, now QBITS. Now I've been working there, like I said, for 17 years. I have a lot of experience around Microsoft server on-premise products. So if you guys hear Active Directory, Exchange, I'll be there for you. If once I got actually here to Vancouver, QBITS again. I was actually working with. I started my path also to project management. So I got a certification in project management with UBC. Later on, actually, I upgraded or got another certification as a PMP, project management professional from PMI. Working with DTM, I actually got my feet on the cloud. With the cloud, I started with BPOS, which is one of the first versions of Microsoft 365. I don't know if people actually has heard about that, but well, anyway. So first versions of 365, current versions of 365. So I've been working actually a lot with email migrations, file migrations to SharePoint. I've been actually doing a lot of Teams adoption workshops. These days I'm also deep into endpoint management workshops. And I think that is it. Oh, I have Microsoft Azure as well. I have a Microsoft Azure certification as an Azure expert architect. So there's a lot of knowledge. I actually helped some clients deploying some infrastructure as a service solutions out of Azure. Thank you, and I'll introduce Terry now.
And you play the guitar.
Hi, my name is Terry Repstein. I've been in IT for probably about 18 years. I got my start way back when with Plasterdome as a gold mining company. They actually got acquired by Barrick Gold, and I basically moved to DTM because DTM was a supplier of Plasterdome. I've been working in the virtualization space for most of my career at DTM, so that's all the way through data center server virtualization, as we move to cloud infrastructure as a service. But for the most part, the most of my time is spent doing end user computing, so virtual desktops, published applications, published desktops. It's been big and sort of even just got bigger now through COVID, obviously with the work from home initiatives, like VDI is sort of here to stay. That's probably what I do 90% of the time, and work with all the different customers and understand their use cases for that.
Tim?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here in Montreal at QBITS with all of you. My name's Tim Green. I've been with DTM Systems now for 27 years, and I'm really happy to be part of the Quadbridge family now. My area of expertise is all around compute products, so servers, whether it's rack servers or tower servers, blade servers, hyper-converged infrastructures, and all the software you would use to manage those server platforms. That's where I specialize in. Typically, they're going to be running VMware vSphere, but they could be running Windows or Linux as well, but mainly I focus on VMware. I do have quite a few vendor certifications around lots of different server products, but I also have VMware certifications too. Now, I work very closely with this team on the stage here with me, but I also work really, really closely with the sales teams at both DTM and Quadbridge, and what we do is if there's a project for a customer that involves servers, there's a good chance I'll get involved with providing some pre-sales technical support for that customer. But then after that, there's a really good chance I might end up doing the post-sales implementation. So whether that means going on site and doing the hardware installation or loading the operating systems and the other software and making a high availability cluster work, that's probably what I'll do. And I've worked with a lot of different software products over the years, so data replication, server migrations, server failovers. In other words, high availability disaster recovery is where I specialize in. And just making sure customers have a great server experience. And then once it's all implemented, I provide the ongoing support to the customers as well. And as a team here, what we will do is, if we're involved in a project, we're going to design it, we're going to implement it, and document it, so that when the customer takes over control of it, they're going to be able to administer it without any problems. Or maybe we'll hand it over to our managed services team, and we'll take care of it for you. And Adam Maloney here is going to tell you more about that, but great to be here, thanks.
Adam.
Thanks, Tim. My name is Adam Maloney, originally from New York, now living in Vancouver, obviously. So I run our managed services division. My certifications are, I'm an ITIL 3 expert, ITIL 4 managing professional, ITIL 4 strategic leader. I have other certifications in IT governance and certain technical certifications from HPE, Sophos, Cisco Meraki, and the like. We definitely work with these guys here on the stage. As Tim alluded to, we will take on any of their projects for support. We will also take on projects that they had nothing to do with, or just customer environments. As they come to us, we make them supportable, and we provide ongoing operational support. We maintain state, and we like to inject predictability into those environments. Nobody likes surprises, and that's what my help desk team excels at doing, is maintaining state.
Awesome, thank
you.
you, Adam. So I'll go through a couple of questions, and there'll be a Q&A at the end, and be at ease, so if you want to ask us any questions, we'll be glad to answer them. So what makes a QB delivered service engagement successful, Gustavo? Oh, Adam, sorry.
That's okay. Thanks for the question. I kind of like to look at it in several different categories. Success comes in terms of assessment, planning, communication both internally and externally with all stakeholders, and it's really good to also do a PIR, post-implementation review, to really get an understanding of what went right, what went wrong, and how do we do that better next time. There's always a continual service improvement component to everything that we do. You can even improve how you improve things as well. So I think it's those four pieces really together make for a successful engagement.
Tim.
And I'll follow up with that. What makes a services project go extremely well, when we first start talking with a customer, maybe we've never dealt with that customer before, we're not gonna talk tech. We're not gonna talk hardware, software. We're gonna sit down with that customer and understand what it is that they need from a business point of view. I'll give you an example. We had a customer that had a fairly sophisticated IT environment, but they wanted to deploy a off-site disaster recovery. And so they asked us to design and implement it for them. Again, before we started talking tech, we sat down with the senior executives in many, many meetings and just dragged information out of them. What does IT do for them? How do they use their IT? What would it mean if that IT suddenly disappeared? How much money would they lose per hour? Once we start getting that kind of information from them, what do they need from a business point of view? And we will document that and get them to sign off on it. We'll then move into slightly more technical, and we'll say, okay, let's figure out what you require in terms of things such as recovery time objectives, recovery point objectives, and then once they've agreed to that, we'll start talking hardware and software to actually meet their requirements. So before we start talking hardware, software, figure out what exactly do they need, document it, so when we're done, they have a solution that actually meets their requirements and they're happy. And that's what we're really looking forward to. Terry?
Yeah, I guess just to sort of add to that is, from a VDI perspective, it's ultimately user experience is paramount. If you don't have happy users, you're not going to have a successful project. So you don't want to lead with the technology, you want to lead with what are the users doing, how are they using these tools, what makes their day-to-day use case special. And then it's really about capturing that and making sure you go through the various project phases and prove that out as you step through those parts of the project. So we don't, again, just like Tim said, we don't want to jump in and start talking, oh, we should do this product or that product or whatever the vendor's touting is the latest thing. It's really about understanding what is the business need and what are they trying to achieve and picking the right tool for the job. For example, if a customer came to me and they're like, oh, I want to do VDI, we might talk to them and we might find something totally separate that's a better fit, and we're not going to push VDI on where it doesn't fit.
Thank you.
Gustavo.
Yeah, as complementing what these guys have said, one of the things actually, one of the ways that actually I like to address projects like is on in a phased approach. So on top of all the planning, I like to actually think about a testing, pilot, and a kind of general availability project where we actually, in a testing phase, we are not using production, we are actually trying to use all the system with all its capabilities. This kind of environment will also help us line up expectations and test any new system with the existing system that the client actually wants to move from, or an integration that it might have with other services around the organization. And once we do that, we move out into a pilot space where we actually migrate or integrate a small group of users with new technologies, with the new systems that we're deploying. And finally, we address the general availability. We try to address it by groups. We try to not to do massive deployments every time that I get engaged into those projects. I like to think about it as a gradual, slowly, and just try to see, making sure that every step of the way the project actually gets achieved and the expectations are met from the client side.
Thank you, Gustavo. Thank
you.
you, guys. So the second question, what are some challenges that our customers have had in the past, and what were the steps taken to overcome these challenges? Gustavo?
So as Terry was mentioning, there's a lot of VDI these days happening. There's a lot of remote work being enabled. One of the questions that I get asked the most is like, how can now that people are not at my office, how can I manage their endpoints? So I've been focusing a lot of MDM, in this case from Microsoft, which is now called Microsoft Endpoint Manager, to actually address some of those needs. So before we were having users on-premise working from the office all the time. Now with cloud solutions from Microsoft, then we're going to be able to manage those devices, have similar or maybe even more powerful functionality with these cloud-based solutions.
I guess one of the more interesting projects that I've done in the past year is sort of the traditional. They've got a large VMware environment. They're constantly getting requests to procure new hardware. Everybody wants the biggest VMs. They're getting server sprawl. So we worked with this customer to basically look at their environment and what they were doing with their virtual infrastructure. It's a significant investment. And basically we went through and did some health checks and leveraged some tools to basically look at how are they using this environment. What can we do to maybe drive a lot more efficiency out of that? And so for a minimal project investment, working with us, we were able to really eliminate the need for procuring additional hardware at that time. They were able to do more with less, and so that was a really big win for them to really not only not have to buy hardware out the gate, it also educated. We like to work with the IT teams of the organizations we work with, so it gave them the tools and the knowledge to then move forward to leverage this new sort of level of efficiency. So even when they would procure new hardware, they're now leveraging it to the most bang for the buck. That's been a good one from this year. And then obviously COVID response. We took a major financial institution that basically sent their whole call center home. 3 weeks later, everybody was remote. Everybody's working through Citrix on the cloud. And it was basically amazing, this turnaround. And they're even thinking about canceling $1 million a year lease to basically keep this workforce from home now. So successful.
So what are some challenges, or what is a challenge for us, for me? The great unknown. Sometimes customers really don't know what they have, or I don't know what they have, and I try to get that information from them. Maybe they don't have all of the answers. Where are all their servers located? What version of firmware do they have on those servers? How well are they running? How much memory do they have? If they're complaining about performance issues and they want to replace some hardware, maybe that performance problem isn't in the servers, it's actually in the network or the storage. So to overcome these challenges would be doing a lot of assessment work up front, running some tools, gathering data, finding all the bits and pieces of their infrastructure, pulling out the performance data for their storage, for their network. Maybe we have to bring in some external resources to do a full network assessment to make sure that we're going to be successful, so that when we finish with a particular project, the customer's happy because it runs well for them. So we have to do a lot of assessment work to get the data so we know what we're dealing with. Adam?
Thanks, Tim. I'm going to talk a little less about technology, just more about just projects in general. I've heard the question frequently, well, where should we start? What is it we're going to prioritize here? We've got a bunch of stuff. Where should we start? Well, the answer is you should probably just start where you are. Do a thoughtful assessment. Take a look. Maybe you don't have to reinvent the wheel, or maybe you do, but we're not going to know right away until we do that assessment. You know, these projects are meant to drive value for you, the customer, and we want to ensure good business outcomes, successful projects, and that you know, you guys get the value that you deserve out of doing these projects, and that's what we're here for.
Thanks, Adam. So last question. Could you describe in a couple of words your technical expertise and how you can benefit our current and future customers? Adam.
Sure. Anything endpoint management, deployments, server management. We even do smaller, my team will do smaller projects that these guys do. We try to push most of that stuff to them. Networking management, security management, backup management, and Office 365, like tenant management. So some key things that I can think of.
Thanks, Adam.
And I would say figuring out, like obviously I have expertise in servers themselves, but I need to do those assessments to collect the data to make sure that if we replace your servers, they're going to run well in your environment with your storage and your networking, like I said previously. But also, I've got to look at how do we do upgrades. If we're going to add more memory, more disk space inside your servers, I've had a lot of experience with that in that I know what works, and I know what's going to fail and cause downtime, and that's the last thing I want to do. is. It's not fun. But I also, if I'm going to upgrade the operating systems, I'm going to insist we upgrade your firmware, not just because the manufacturer says so, but we're going to fix bugs and reduce some vulnerabilities that you will have, and actually make sure that we have a complete set of firmware operating systems that are actually compatible with each other and certified and supported together. And that's where I've had a lot of experience, and it's where I spend a lot of my time.
Thank you.
I would say probably the biggest amount of time right now is going to sort of that work from home initiative. It's here to stay. People are going to be hybrid working. We've been hearing it throughout the conference. So basically anything to do with that, whether it be VDI or remote access or other forms of identity access management, spending a lot of time with that. Obviously virtualization, as people lift and shift to the cloud or start to plan these migration projects, I'm helping out with that a lot. Those would probably be the key areas keeping me busy right now.
Thank you, Terry.
The Microsoft 365 migration, workloads, adoption, that's going to be my key. That's kind of my key these days. I also Microsoft Azure infrastructure as a service, so compute, DR, backup solutions based on Azure. One of the things is just configuring like a hybrid type of deployments for those that already have an existing infrastructure. One more thing for Terry.
One more thing. I think one of the biggest takeaways from working with everyone on the board here is that we don't operate in a silo. We have many projects that will engage as a team, and the value that comes from sitting down with a room of subject matter experts in their different areas to be able to come up with a unified project and a unified sort of approach, that's sort of monumental in the success of our projects.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up. So I had my 3 questions, and then I guess I'm handing it over to the crowd. If you have any questions, please be at ease. If not, if you're stage fright like myself, you can always visit us in the booth. So go ahead.
So like a little fight there right now. Microsoft Intune versus Cisco Meraki MDM. For mobile device management, we're talking about lots of iPads and mobile devices.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Gustavo. That's terrific. Thank you for the question. So, Cisco Meraki MDM is specifically geared. I have found they have the most hooks into anything iOS, iPad, iPhone, the like.
Android.
But more so for iOS. You can do more with that particular service for any iOS device over Android or even a Windows or Windows Mobile or whatever.
Yeah.
In terms of the Intune, I would have to leave that to Gustavo to talk about. But you're not going to like deploy an application package onto an iPhone like you would in Intune, right? It's an autopilot. It's a little bit different. Apple has a different thing, but there are tons of hooks into that operating system, like what you can do, how you can restrict it, how you can enable certain single functions or all the like. There's a lot of things in there. I would refer you to Meraki's marketing fluff on their website.
I use both of them. That's why.
What's that?
I use both of them. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, you use both of them.
You
Yeah.
should tell us.
Yeah. Well, why don't here?
One of the things that I like with working with Intune, or now called Microsoft Endpoint Manager, is the integration that has with Azure Active Directory, with Windows 10, all that stuff. Windows Autopilot actually is also a good way to just have users working completely remotely, have the vendor ship a laptop directly to a user, and that laptop actually is going to be completely set up. The user just needs to bring it up, plug it into the network, and the association to the portal Azure, the Azure portal, or the 365 portal, is going to be immediate. Once the user actually touches the username and password, it's going to be a seamless experience. The applications are going to be deployed automatically, so that versus Meraki. Meraki does deployment of software for Windows?
Some apps for Windows, and I don't
No?
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things also that I like about the multiplicity from Microsoft Endpoint Manager is the integration with iOS and Android. And there is actually a configuration where you can actually differentiate your personal profile versus your work profile. So that's in Android. I really like how that looks. It's easy to deploy in Android, easier to deploy in Android. In the iOS world, it's a little bit more complex, but it does also provide you Apple.
Sandbox experience, right?
It does, yeah. I was going to say it does provide you Apple IDs being used with your work accounts. So you can actually, instead of actually deploying, if you actually have the need for corporate devices. I don't know if you guys have actually had that challenge, but one of the things that actually happens is when you actually have corporate devices, you might start deploying those devices using public Apple IDs. So the integration actually that happens with Intune is that you can federate your Apple Business Manager. I don't know if people are familiar here with the Apple Business Manager, but Apple Business Manager is pretty much the portal where you can actually configure the devices that have been purchased in a corporate manner. And that portal can be associated to your Azure AD credentials, and your Azure AD credentials then become an Apple ID. So that's kind of in general terms how I think actually the iOS integration works well.
Any other questions?
Is that good? Good? But you want to tell us your experience? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank everyone for your patience of me stuttering a bit, and thank you very much, and we'll go to the next presentation. How are you?
Thank you.